Hello, all you miraculous little animated people out there. I'm Duuz-Diz-Din coming at you once again with another miraculous review of Miraculous Ladybug. This time it's Season 3's episode... Oh man, I really don't even know which episode it is. Episode whatever, titled Animaestro. Now, I'm so disjointed by this episode because it is such a trip. Because it opens up with the miraculous, the Ladybug PV, production video. And this animated scene was done as a kind of proof of concept by Toei of how the Ladybug, animated series would basically look as it was done, outright. And, if you don't know, Toei Animation, they're the creators of One Piece, Dragon Ball, all that, the really fun animation that's long-running and long-standing. And if you didn't know, Miraculous Ladybug was actually intended to be an animated series at first. However, this was scrapped specifically, for a lot of technical reasons, one of the biggest one being because, stuff like spots and stripes and stuff of that nature are really difficult to do, solid hand-drawn animation for. And since the main character is covered in spots, it was just like, it was really taxing on the animation team for the most part. Because, you had to really think, you had to put a lot of thought in the placement of her spots and all that. So ultimately it was decided that they would go with 3D animation instead to ease it up on the animators. But there actually is a Ladybug 2D animated kind of OVA on the way sometime in the future. And one of the biggest things about the initial Ladybug animation concept was the fact that Cat Noir was, very different to the Cat Noir we know now. And in fact, it wasn't Adrien Agreste, it was Felix Agreste, who is actually a bit more volatile to Marinette. The relationship between Ladybug and Cat Noir remained the same, but the relationship between the young Agreste and Marinette was very different. Marinette wasn't so much clumsy, but it's because Cat Noir's, bad luck powers, Felix's natural bad luck powers constantly caused her misfortune. And Felix's character was fully aware of Marinette's love for him. He just didn't care. He didn't care for it, and very different and opposed to how Ladybug is kind of begrudgingly sweet on Cat Noir. Felix made no qualms about his disdain for Marinette's affection, and sometimes even in special scenes, it even seemed like he was causing her bad luck on purpose as well. And the character was changed ultimately because Felix's character was found to be a bit too boring to a certain degree, the usual bad boy kind of thing. So they decided to go with the sweeter, more caring Adrien in order to kind of mix it up to a certain degree. But, his original concept made him seem very much his father's son, whereas now in, this actual series proper, it's more of a... You see little bits of it here, you see how they can be related, but you also see very obviously how they're different. And, that's my whole 10-minute ramble about the PV for the most part, because this is actually, as it turns out, a preview for the Miraculous Ladybug and Cat Noir movie. So this is a great way of using in-world, actual footage from the older, Ladybug and Cat Noir series, and, bringing it into the series proper, using those assets, which I think is a beautiful thing, and it gets people wondering what this animation actually is. It's such a fascinating way of going about this, but it's very obvious some changes to the narrative are made to make it seem like a movie that's about to be released. And of all people, we see Thomas Astruck as the director of this movie. And if you don't know, Thomas Astruck is the actual director of Miraculous Ladybug. Whereas Jeremy Zag was the creator of the concept of Miraculous Ladybug. Everything you really truly know about the series up until this point is headed by Thomas. So a nice little self-insert, and he plays a major role in this episode, which really took me off guard. But Miraculous Ladybug hasn't really ever shied away from including real-world characters into the series. But apparently Ladybug Marinette had turned down an invitation to the premiere, as she didn't feel it would be right for her just to be sitting around as Ladybug seeing a movie when she's actually supposed to be out there saving lives. But her opinion has changed when she finds out that, in a weird, hilarious twist that was obviously intentional, Adrian, who is the voice of Cat Noir in the friggin' Ladybug and Cat Noir movie, which is just like, dude, he'll actually be at the premiere, and Marinette immediately regrets her decision. And after finding out that her parents are actually heading up the catering for the event, she wants to be on board as well. However, her clumsy nature, especially when it comes to Marinette, kind of dissuades her parents for the most part, but ultimately her dad, being the big softy that he is, agrees to have Marinette come along as a waitress. Marinette is swooning and getting ready and just have the best time with Adrian, and we come to find out she made this special maroon with passion fruit, which is apparently Adrian's favorite fruit, and she had created this. As we come to find out, she creates this every weekend, every Sunday, I think they said, and hopes to one day give it to Adrian at some point. She just holds on to it for like a week or so. And man, Tiki's reaction is just my mood all the way, because Marinette, I'm gonna be real, I've had a crush on this one girl, and I've been so into her and just all this stuff, and then I obsessed over her. I was just like ready to do anything for her if she just said the word and all that good stuff. But one thing is just like, there's obsessive and then there's creepy obsessive, and it's just, Marinette, take it from me, you've gone a little too far in terms of your affection for Adrian. It's just taken a whole nother level. But at the actual movie premiere proper, we come to find that the Thomas Astruck's, tends to not actually get too much respect, despite the fact that he's the director for the movie. And, this little in-joke about 2D animation being pretty much looked down on. And if you didn't know, Thomas Astruck has actually a lot of experience in terms of 2D animation, as he had worked on Witch, one of my favorite series, as well as Code Lyoko, another of my favorite series, as well as Totally Spies, and you guessed it, another of my favorite series. So he has a lot of experience when it comes to 2D animation, but here he just gets no respect. And as Marinette is set off to be, do her waitress thing, she actually does a good job for the most part. Whereas as time goes on, Thomas just continues to be kind of demeaned and looked down upon by everyone in attendance here. And as Adrian finally arrives, Marinette goes into her usual goofy kind of bumbling personality whenever he's around, and she ends up losing her ultimate macaroon, which ends up being kicked across the floor by various guests. And we end up finding out that Chloe is in attendance as well, which is to be expected. She always gets into the most lavish of events, no matter what or when they may be. I also love seeing all the, Ladybug and Cat Noir posters in the background. It's just, man, something about that just really does something for me. And then we have the arrival of Kagami, and we come to find out that Chloe is against Kagami just as much as Marinette is. And we have this amazing scene where Kagami completely shuts down and tells off Chloe within an instant, telling her to never look at her, speak with her, or even just talk with her ever again. And Kagami, you are my spirit animal, just you are amazing. You're doing great, sweetie. I don't care what anyone says. But once she meets up with Adrien and she gets her flirted on for the most part, we have Chloe kind of want to team up with Marinette in order to get, Kagami away from Adrien for the most part. And, despite Tiki just wondering, it's just hey, is it really a good idea for you to team up with Chloe? Marinette goes through with it anyway, creating this massive concoction of a really out there plan for the most part. And, they set everything up. And meanwhile, Thomas continues to be ridiculed and demeaned by kids this time, no less. And they, Marinette and Chloe set their plan in motion, where Marinette trips and falls over, but he, despite this being a little bit off script, she gives Adrien one of the, water breathers, and she gives Adrien her macaroon. Sorry, I'm looking at something else. She gives Adrien the special macaroon she had created for him. Meanwhile, Chloe manages to stick gum onto Kagami's, shoes, which are her grandma's ancestral shoes or whatever. So, Adrien tries to help sit her down so he can take it off, only for crumbs to be found in the chair from macaroons. In fact, they've spread it to all of the nearby chairs. And Marinette has Jagged Stone sign a picture where he ends up putting down the cake he was holding, and as Kagami finally gets ready to sit down, Chloe pulls in the cake covered chair, basically. So what an overly elaborate plan that would not even actually work that way. Things about this plan just know that nothing would work out that way whatsoever. But before she can sit in the cake, her mother calls her over. Unfortunately, Thomas, who is already having a bad day, ends up sitting in the cake himself, exasperated by the little kids demeaning and just questions that really just put him down for the most part. And he even ends up finding Marinette's special macaroon, which, as we come to find out, contained, I think it was hazelnut, which he is devastatingly allergic to. No, almonds I think it was. And there were supposed to be no maroons with almonds in them at the party, but unfortunately there was one specific one. However, despite his cries and anger and pleas, nobody really gives him the time of day for the most part, which leaves him prone to Hawkmoth, who sends out an Akuma to possess his little ID badge, and grants him the power to pretty much do anything that his imagination can actually conjure up, which is completely dangerous of a power for the most part. And meanwhile, Kagami is sitting with Adrien and her mother, and Adrien puts in a very nice, sweet impression with Kagami's mother, and it's just a very interesting scene for the most part. Meanwhile, Chloe calls out Marinette for handing over the special macaroon, and she's just like, oh, it was passion fruit, I thought it gave it to Adrien. And Chloe immediately puts two and two together. It's just like, you're in love with Adrien, and she just starts busting out laughing, having apparently never realized this before, which I'm just like, no, that's the one thing I cannot believe in this series. You are effing kidding me, man. Like, dude, I can believe nobody would, connect the dots on Marinette and, Ladybug. That's fine. That's absolutely fine, whatever. The Superman thing, whatever. But, you can see Marinette's affection for Adrien from space for the most part. It is ridiculous, just to borrow a phrase. But, almost just kind of to give it even more mocking, because Chloe is the worst, she goes over to basically tell Adrien about Marinette's affections, just to see him turn her down. However, this is interrupted by the arrival of the Animaestro, the newly transformed Thomas Astruc, who we find out has the ability to transform into any 2D character he can imagine, one of which being a dragon that goes on this massive "I'm a fire in my laser" rampage. Cat Noir and Ladybug come in to stop him, only to kind of ridicule him even more for the most part, so he just gets even more pissed than before, which, it's just like, whatever. But they do actually manage to tie him to a tree at first, only for him to transform in this kind of, anime-inspired mecha, and he just starts wrecking them. So they can, Ladybug and Cat Noir can only escape at this point, but they try to figure things out for the most part, and how they... Ooh, sorry, I'm so sorry. How they can possibly stop the Animaestro. We even see a bit of a cameo for the most part for Majestica. I really have no idea how to pronounce that name, but this superhero that was actually talked about in the Ladybug and Cat Noir universe for the most part, although in certain iterations it's hard to tell if she's an actual character or just more of a fictional character in terms of this world. But, she goes on the attack, and Ladybug brings out her lucky charm, which is actually a head camera, which they're just like, I don't really get it. But, they end up being ambushed by Animaestro, who creates this smoke screen so that he can take their Miraculous without being detected. Unfortunately, as they're not looking, Animaestro finds that he is unable to go after them and ends up fleeing, and they come to their senses. Not knowing what happened, Ladybug and Cat Noir review the tape, finding that Animaestro does not attack if he is not being watched. Very, very interesting concept right there. And just the fact that he just doesn't, he's, just can't move. No eyes are on him. It's like they say it outright. It's like, if you don't watch a movie, did it ever really exist? And in certain situations, you can never tell. Specifically Antarctica. It's like, oh man. I'm definitely loopy because I am sleepy as all get out, so let me try to wrap this up. So, Animaestro continues to wreak havoc. Ladybug and Cat Noir realize that they have to get eyes off of Animaestro, which is better, said than done, because, all these people are completely incapacitated completely memorized for the most part. So they have to go around and tell them, hey, stop looking. Avert your eyes. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. Just don't look at it. Don't acknowledge it, and it'll go away. And naturally, Animaestro, goes on the offensive, and by turning into basically a Ryu Goku-inspired character and letting off either a Hadouken, a mighty powerful great Hadouken, or a Kamehameha. So that's a very interesting situation. Love the references, just love the references. And Ladybug even goes over to the news crew and tells them, hey, stop, don't turn off your TVs, don't look at this anymore, it's dangerous, you're just feeding into his power and all that good stuff. And she tells him, stop watching, you stop that right now. But, Animaestro calls her out. It's just like, hey, there's always going to be someone watching no matter what. Which is, it turns out, is Hawkmoth on his iPad. But, Ladybug just crushes the camera with much hilarious dismay of Hawkmoth for the most part. Meanwhile, Animaestro turns into the super-powered anime magical girl, which is just like, huh. What Ladybug could have been easily. This kind of magical girl character is fascinating. But Animaestro starts unleashing holy heck. Cat Noir finally manages to return and unleashes his cataclysm. And Animaestro is just like, you'll never defeat me, 2D forever, blah blah blah. The so self-absorbed aspect of Animaestro's character for the most part. All about him. It's just like, once ever the people kind of get the spotlight, it's just like, oh, who are you again? So, you never know. But they're ready to go all in, with various people just averting their eyes and not looking anymore, not feeding into Animaestro's, frenzy and stuff. And all Cat Noir and Ladybug have to do is just close their eyes in order to keep him from being able to stop them or come after them. And Cat Noir destroys the container of the Akuma, which Ladybug then reverts everything back to normal. And we find out Mr. Regress had actually left to go and watch Animaestro to give him enough power to continue, but it was too little too late. But it's really interesting seeing Gabriel Regress swear vengeance when he's not even Hawkmoth. It's just him, his regular self, and it's just like, you could easily have someone being like, wait, who's Hawkmoth? You're Hawkmoth! So we'll never have that happen without it being like an out-and-out joke for the most part. But Marinette ends up feeling a little bit bad about teaming up with Chloe. She didn't much appreciate what Chloe decided to do. But, she also tells Chloe not to talk to Adrien about her feelings. But Chloe would greatly, apparently, prefer to just have Marinette squirm just in obscurity for the most part, believing nothing could come of them, trying to her tried to pursue Adrien for the most part, which is really cold, like Jesus. But, seeing this, Thomas Astruc, sees Marinette's plight and decides that he's going to turn over his past to her in order to let her go into the movie. And Marinette thanks him and actually knows exactly who Thomas Astruc is, which leaves Thomas overjoyed. And Marinette actually, luckily, managed to sit exactly next to Adrien, which nice little finale to this episode. But again, this episode was a trip. Thomas Astruc's inclusion, and honestly, that's the thing that a lot of directors don't really get the credit they deserve. Is I do it so much myself, where it's just like, oh, Jeremy Zag did this, that, blah blah blah. But the person who really goes in and gets everything on track is usually the director for the most part. So give it up to Thomas Astruc, who continues to bring us a very fun and compelling series for the most part. Another thing that got me is the fact that just Chloe didn't know. Like, how did you not know Marinette was into I just can't believe it. But now Chloe knows, and maybe this will make her even more tenacious than ever in terms of keeping Marinette away from Adrian. But with Kagami still knowing full well that they're interested in Adrian, she's fighting her hardest just as much. So, oof, that love octagon, whatever, just leave me out of it. But being able to see the Ladybug PV just very interesting, because it's just been a while since I watched it, and it was so good. And I'm a fan of 2D animation. I'm sorry, that's what I went to school for at first. Although ultimately I learned 3D animation. Go figure. But there's just something about 2D animation, and I can tell you wholeheartedly, drawing a pattern on someone is difficult. You when you do animation, you use simple shapes that you can draw repeatedly ad nauseum. Once you get more complex, it just goes belly up. That's why you especially do not see background characters in overly complex stuff. It's just like, no, we've got no budget for you at this point. But I've rambled on enough. Tell me your thoughts on this, episode. Just mind the fact that Team Rock. Oh, sorry. Just mind the fact that this was a very love-centric episode, and I'm kind of glad. Focus on what seems to really be driving the plot, and that's the relationship to Adrian and all this. Just kind of wish Adrian would get a bit of a clue. But hey, tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. If you notice I kind of went off the reservation a few times there, it's because I'm tired as all get out. Just got off of work and I am ready to pass out. So I will probably do so after this, recording this. But tell me your thoughts on this episode in the comment section below. And hey, if you like this review, despite my losing my mind here and there, feel free to leave me a like. And if you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike. At least it lets me know where I stand, or even tell me what I can do to improve this channel for the most part. And hey, how about subscribing? Because sometimes I'm actually very lucid and don't start babbling like an idiot. But until then, feel free to subscribe, because I'll definitely be bringing you more animation-tacular episode reviews of Miraculous Ladybug. But until then, take care.